What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome to another edition of Thrylos 7 International. I am Kostas Lianos, or Kostas with a K, and I am joined by the godfather of this podcast, Aris Bouloubassis. Ari, should I even ask you how you are tonight?
Man, I'm happy. Olympiacos football won, basketball just won the Super Cup for a third year in a row. We watched Kostoulas, and then Ike Panetolikos is about to finish too, and it looks like Ike's going to end up winning that. So Panetolikos is going to drop points yet again. So not a bad day for me.
Well, it's 2-0 over at Hagia Sophia right now. Ike Athens ahead with Franci Piero, and Nordin Amrabat scored a penalty just now. And before we get to it, we got a lot of things to discuss tonight, Ari. And if you haven't done so, guys, please do like and subscribe. It helps the channel grow. It is quite a time for this channel. This is the time to keep the channel, the momentum going, because, guys, we are nominated. We are nominated for Best International Podcast at the Football Content Awards, taking place on November 21 at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. That is in London, guys, 21st of November. Check the description. Literally first line. Click on that link and vote for us for Best International Podcast. This is quite something, Ari. I mean, especially for you. I mean, it was just you, Labros Sirmos, Peter Thompson, three friends in Maryland coming together, putting a podcast together. I mean, I got to ask you, man. I mean, you got to tell me how that feels.
I honestly, man, I still don't have words for it because it's a huge honor. We've talked about this on every show since, of course, we've been nominated. I will be in London. You will be there. Kostas will be there. The three of us will be attending. I'm super excited. And then I'm also going to be attending the Arsenal Nottingham Forest match. That'll be that Saturday as well. So I'm making a little bit of a trip of it. It's a blast, man. Look, we're going to do our best. We're up against some really big channels, guys. We need all the support we can get, but I can tell you this. It doesn't matter what teams some people support. We are getting support from all over the place. There are 3 Super League executives that have helped, that also clicked that link and nominated for us. There are Super League 2 executives that did. The Greek embassy in DC, the vast majority of them have also supported us in this. And almost none of them are Olympiacos fans. 1 or 2 of them are. They're mainly Ike fans. So it's just amazing to see the support, not just from Olympiacos fans, but like from Greeks all over the place that are just coming together and voting because Greece, the Greek football, Olympiacos, whatever, Greece is now on it's getting noticed on all these platforms. And it's because of projects like this. It's because of the community getting together. It's because of all of us here. And to be able to say that it's from something, a passion project that was originally started by myself, Lambro, and Peter, man, I don't have words for that. It's a really amazing feeling. And it will be amazing just being there, being able to talk to some of the people that we get to share the floor with, which is an incredible experience. So win or lose, man, it's an honor to get that. So thank you guys for the support, whoever nominated us for this, because it's not an easy process. Whoever nominates, it's got to be a certain number of people, and then it goes through a list of judges. There were like 1,000 nominations, hundreds just for this category, and they picked us as one of the finalists. Like, it's absurd to think about where all this has come from, and we're still in a way, like if you compare it to like AFTV and some of these other channels, we're so small in comparison. So it's just a huge honor, and I can't wait to see what happens.
And a huge shout out to our other co-hosts who couldn't be here tonight: Kostas Levoyanis, or Kostas with a C, Dimitris Kouintsidis, Martial Debo, and of course everyone's favorite host, Labros Sirmos. Absolutely cracking work, but nothing is possible without you guys, the fans. And we would be absolutely honored if you could join us on our Patreon group. You can find the link below in the description. Absolutely lively and vibrant WhatsApp channel you can join. And more importantly, you're going to be getting exclusive content from exclusive interviews. Many of those that keep coming right now. And my favorite nugget in all of this is you get to hear from us everything we cannot say on camera during the podcast. So, guys, if you haven't done so already, please do support us on Patreon. You can join us for as little as $1 a month. What can you buy with $1 these days?
Not much. Even the dollar store is more than $1. So there's not really much you can get. Maybe some bubble gum.
Well, and I think that's like one bubble gum out of the entire.
Yeah.
So, guys, if you haven't done so, please do join us on Patreon. Well, Ari, I mean, we talked about this. This has been quite a night. Olympiacos BC, Super Cup winners, third year in a row, beating eternal rivals Panetolikos 86-85. The score was close, but Olympiacos were quite dominant, especially in the fourth period. Tyler Dorsey with 19 points in the first in the preliminary time frame. Sasa Vezenkov with 20 points. Filip Petrusev with 18 points. Three of the players that stood out for Yorgos Bartzokas. An incredible result, especially considering how the league ended for us last season, being 2-0 ahead in the playoffs and losing 3-2 at the end. Ari, what's your reaction to this incredible title, which is already our first title of the season?
So it's great to start off well, but if you remember last season, we started off by winning the Super Cup, and then Panetolikos went on to win, not just the Euro League, but they went on to win the Greek League as well. So while I'm always happy to win any title, I want to see the basketball team do what they are meant to do this season. We have made some great pickups. Sasha's back. We brought in Fournier. And, I'm not the basketball genius here. I just started watching basketball because of Olympiacos about a season and a half ago. And there's a lot of expectations here because this team is really good on paper. The Ayoub brothers have brought in some great players to answer to Panetolikos after last season. So they need to answer. And they need to do what they have to do in EuroLeague. I saw Basket News ranked Panetolikos and Olympiacos number 1 and number 2, respectively, in terms of their power rankings for the season. I don't care what the case is. I want to see us in the final, and I want to see us win it this year. That would be, for me, amazing for basketball.
Well, hello to you too as well, George. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, how do you see those amazing new additions? You touched on them with Fournier, with Vezenkov coming up. How do you see them fitting into the new project in this new season under Bartzokas, I should say? And how do you expect them to fare in this new challenge?
Like I said, I'm not the expert. Fournier didn't look too great today, but he'll need time to settle in. Vildoza is a great pickup for us. I'm expecting them to build this chemistry a little bit over time. This is a really good start to start building that momentum and to start building up a positive push forward for the team. They just have to keep doing it. There's a lot of great pieces. And everybody's going to have to do something. I mean, you don't win a championship just with one or two people. Everybody has to do their part. And this team, for such a long time, this basketball team, at least since I've been watching, has been greater than the sum of its parts. If that makes any sense to you. So it's, I should say greater than the sum of the individual parts. So now they have incredible individual pieces. So they have to continue that. And if they continue to do that and they continue to play great as a unit, great total basketball is the word that people like to use, then the sky's the limit for them.
Absolutely. Big shout out to Panayoti Zorba. Thank you so much for your kind words. Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ, Panayoti. That's what this has been the goal since day one. I mean, I gotta say, Ari, the moment I found you guys on Twitter, and I'm not so sure how I found you on Twitter. I don't think you were like recommended to me. I think I don't know. I was going through Twitter and I could just find you. The podcast started to grow and follow. It started to amass a strong following. And the moment I saw the podcast, I fell in love. Finally, a podcast that covers Olympiacos for an international audience. We've gotten a lot of interesting comments various comments from people, demanding to know why it is we speak English. That's literally the reason why we're doing it, because we want to share the word internationally, and the international language is English. Thank you so much for your kind words, Panayoti.
Thank you, Panayoti.
And we have a nice little cheeky. If we haven't convinced you to join the the Patreon group, here Stefan was one of our favorite fans. $1 will buy you elite moaning by Gerasimos every single day, and
That's
he
true.
is right. Stefan, thank you so much for your continuous support. Always enjoying your comments, always enjoying your company during the lives, and the Patreon group as well. Like amazing insight. And we're gonna have a newbie at Karaiskakis, Andrea Santo. I'm so excited to see my first match at Karaiskakis for this year on Thursday. Hope we win Braga. Andrea, I hope I'm gonna be there as well. Ari, you read my message, right?
Yes.
Yes, I'm hoping to be at Karaiskaki to cover the game against Braga. We've already sent the application, should be okay. So, Andrea, let's stay in touch. Let's meet up and have a little chat. The basketball comments keep pouring in. Fournier and Vildoza will be the minds in the offense when the whole team will be built. When the whole team built more chemistry, we'll see tremendous things. I think we have another one here. Barzokas is using them well. Fournier is slowly but surely getting form, and altogether seem to build a good team relationship and not depend on a good day. It's going to be a long season, though, Ari. I mean, surely the EuroLeague is also going to be on our sites, won't it? Big time.
Yep. And just so everybody knows, especially if you're based in North America, ESPN is once again showing all the EuroLeague matches for free. So you just get, it's ESP. It used to be called ESPN3. Now I forgot what it's called. But whatever. It's the online site. All of the EuroLeague matches are free. So it's a great way to be able to see everything. It's very visible now in North America. EuroLeague is getting very popular. Last season was the best for the TV ratings for EuroLeague, and they're expecting it to get even better this year. So very excited as far as basketball is concerned.
It's funny how the international channels are actually interested in those Greek things, because there are other channels that are not too keen on anything Greek related, despite all the success we've seen in the past few years. We're getting there.
It's getting there. It's getting there, slowly but surely.
I cannot tell you guys how big Aris Bouloubassis is in this sort of revolution, if I may describe it, of bringing international audience, not just for Olympiacos, but Greek football and Greek basketball as well. You guys have no idea how important Ari is in this amazing initiative. Without Ari, this doesn't exist, by the way, just letting you know. Like, if we win the award, please I do apologize, Ari, for using the word if, but if we win the award, you're taking it home. I'm not even kidding. Like, this award is going to Maryland, and this award will be on we need to find a way to have it on the background when we're having the shows, because you deserve this, buddy. I mean, your continuous work inside and outside of this podcast is completely unreal. Guys, follow Ari on Twitter. I mean, you must follow this man on Twitter, because this man deserves a lot more than he already has in terms of audience, in terms of respect. Ari is Thrylos 7 International.
Thank you, Kostas. I appreciate that, but it's not all just me. It's impossible to do this one person. It's utterly impossible. So there's a lot of stuff I have to do behind the scenes, but it's impossible. It's impossible for one person. Everybody has to be involved, or the project wouldn't work. That includes Kostas, that includes Lambro, that includes Dimitri, and Martial as well. Everybody has to be involved. So otherwise it doesn't work. But it sounds like everybody's ready to talk some football. So let's get into it.
I couldn't agree more with you about everything you said. Now, and I do agree that, it's probably time to move into the football. Finally, Olympiacos win in September after a horrible draw against Panetolikos, which I had, let's say, the honor of watching up close. I haven't checked the live commentary. I tried to make it as entertaining as possible. Please do have a look. Two miserable losses to Aris and Lyon, but Olympiacos finally pulled one off against Atromitos with a 2-0 win. A penalty kick from Rodinei after former Olympiacos player Houtesiotis brought Christopher Velde down with quite a strong clash right there. And then, of course, Ayoub El Kaabi scoring his second consecutive goal in the league after a stunning assist by none other than Christos Mouzakis, the 17-year-old, who started in Jose Luis Mendilibar's rotated squad that also included Babis Kostoulas spearheading the attack. So, Ari, I mean, we have seen three horrible, in my opinion, performances from Olympiacos the last couple of weeks. This, though, was a bit different because Olympiacos did dominate possession and tempo, and they managed to do more things with the ball this time, more end product, more chances created, and finally we got the victory that we needed and a clean sheet to go with it. So what do you make of that victory, and how do you compare it to the last three drab performances?
So, Costa, I'm just going to say, first of all, a certain channel has been talking about the youth for a very long time. A certain channel has been talking about how if the youth are going to be used in concert with the transfers that we brought in, we have a quite balanced squad. I said it. Lambro said it. You said it. Kostas said it. We talked about how
Martial, Dimitris, all of them.
Everybody. We all said the same thing. And we took a lot of heat for it. People getting upset with us constantly. We're playing like crap. We're playing like this. We bring up the youth. We dared to talk about Mendilibar not using the youth, and people got upset with us. And I'm vindicated. We're all vindicated because of what happened. First of all, the energy from the likes of Babis Kostoulas and Christos Mouzakis was second to none. And you saw from the beginning. Okay, look. Both Babis Kostoulas and Mouzakis had some heavy touches early, nerves. And that's understandable. They're young. They're playing in the theater of their dreams. Christos Mouzakis in particular was his debut. Kostoulas has had a couple of them now, but these guys came on after a few touches. They were settled in and they looked good. The first goal, don't forget, happened following a Mouzakis beautiful through ball cutting into Velde, and then Velde did nothing with it. And then after he loses the ball gets won back, and that's when the penalty happened after the ball got played back in, and Velde draws the penalty when he gets cleaned out by the goalkeeper. But that whole sequence began with that gorgeous through ball cutting the midfield and defensive line by Mouzakis. And then he does it again with a beautiful ball one time over the top to El Kaabi. It's we've been saying, and I have been so high, all of us so high on Christos Mouzakis. It doesn't matter his age. And people have been telling me, oh, they're kids, we have to protect them. I don't know where this comes from. It's a Greek thing. It is just a Greek thing that we have to protect the kids. No, it's bullshit. In the modern game, you are either ready or you are not. It has nothing to do with age. These kids are not just random kids in the academy, Costa. These are UEFA Youth League winners. This is the best generation of talent we've had come out of our academy since I have been alive. And we've had a couple of interesting generations that came up, but then did nothing. These are the best talent players, young academy kids, that we have ever seen, at least under the Marinakis era. Play them. And they proved they're ready. Babis Kostoulas has been more useful so far than Yaremchuk in a total football respect. Yaremchuk did score off the bench once, but the effort level, the pressing, everything, he holds the ball up so well. Mouzakis is more creative in one match than any of our midfielders have been. Not to discredit them, because they all have different abilities and different traits, like Chiquinho and Heze in the press, Heze's anticipation in the press traps. But none of them have that vision. We have not seen that once. Those kids, Mouzakis especially, is a starter with Heze and Chiquinho in the midfield. I don't care if he's 17 years old. That kid's more ready than half the players we brought in this summer. So that's the first thing I'm going to say about it. The second thing, I love the risk. This is Mendilibar. I love the risk that he took with the lineup. This is what he did last season. Mendilibar's watermelon-sized balls, Costa, his watermelon-sized Archivia. That's what he did last year when he went full-court press against Aston Villa. That's what this guy did last season, and this is what was exciting. Logical football, willing to take risks. He went back to it today, and it panned out. And, okay, some of you might say, well, it was Atromitos. No big deal. Atromitos has been having a great season. Pablo Garcia has been a pain in our ass, no matter what team he coaches. The pressure was on. The pressure was on today. So This wasn't a game that was just, oh, whatever, we're just playing Atromitos. No, this was a good team with a coach that has really given us problems in the past and a situation with a lot of pressure. If we had lost this game today, Costa, pressure is on Mendilibar and he could be out. This game holds things off a bit. And now we have to see what happens at Braga. And it gives a great headache to Mendilibar in terms of what he's going to do ahead of that match. Because now he's seen how valuable some of these players are, especially the younger kids. All in all, I was much happier with how we moved the ball, right? I got into it with people in Panetolikos. Even though we didn't move the ball that well, we created plenty of opportunities. Today, we created less opportunities than Panetolikos, but we moved the ball way better. We moved the ball faster, and the opportunities we materialized were a little bit better. We were disjointed in some ways here and there. Our midfield pressing scheme it's still not really working, and we saw that. Stamenic does not lay the press trap like Hezed does. He's horrible in anticipation. He's also not very aggressive yet. What I saw in Serbia, I've been very disappointed with what we have seen so far from Stamenic. But in the end, we saw a better product. Apostolopoulos has a limit to what he has available in his skill set. He is very useful. His energy level, his overlapping, more than what we've seen from Ortega. Ortega's been a big disappointment for me so far this season. Apostolopoulos is not amazing, but as far as I'm concerned right now, I saw better from him today than I've seen from Ortega. And Ortega has a much higher ceiling than Apostolopoulos does right now as far as what we can expect skill-wise. In the end, I'm happy with what we see. And I am really hoping that Jose Luis Mendilibar saw this game and took the right lessons from it. Because until this point, it's been his decision not to play the youth. Nobody else's. Mm-hmm. His decision. And if we have to fault him for one thing, it's that. I'm not going to get into it with people about whose choices were his for transfers or anything. The decision we know is his is the choice with the youth. I hope, because of how they played today, and his comments after the match reflected that he recognizes how kids have played and what they can contribute, because they are the missing pieces that we needed. We didn't see all of them today in the squad list. It was only Mouzakis and Kostoulas, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. But this is a good start. We know now that they can offer us something. We know that. So now it's time to really, really work with the mentality that these kids are part of this team. They're not 17-year-old kids. They are Olympiacos players. They are part of the team. They are part of the roster. And these are kids we need to not be afraid to count on during the rest of the season.
And I would like to bring up this comment from Dimus Lohner. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Mark my words, the moment Kostoulas will score his first goal, we will see from him better gameplay. I couldn't agree more with you, Dimus. And during the summer, I said that we cut a clip of that as well. We cut a reel from that. That I have a feeling about Babis Kostoulas. I have a feeling that he's not just going to be, a rotation kind of player, a squad player, the kind of player you throw in during the matches that, we're comfortable we're going to win and we're resting players. And to be honest, I do feel Mendilibar was resting players. I mean, Eze was on the bench, Chiquini was on the bench, El Kaabi was on the bench. But still, though, I feel like Babis Kostoulas will play a big role this season. I said that in the summer. And I do feel like when he finally gets his first senior goal, there's going to be momentum. It's a real shame that overhead kick didn't go in, because if it had, everyone would be talking about Babis Kostoulas, this 17-year-old kid who scored on his debut, and what a goal it was. We'd start hearing all those crazy comparisons. The kid would have momentum. And after that goal, God knows what he could have done against Lyon. Everyone would have felt more confident on this pitch, especially this youngster, because those kids as well that Olympiacos have, Papacanelos, Bakoulas, Mouzakis, Kostoulas, they fit that Greek stereotype of players that are hungry. They want to go in. They're crazy. They're wild. They got a chip on their shoulder. They have something to prove. And that's exactly how they are. And they're proving it on the pitch. They are going for the ball. They are hungry for the challenge. They are, the crowd gets them going. They are Olympiacos through and through, those kids as well. And I said it last week on the show, and I would like your opinion on this, since you are very much, you do follow all the developments regarding financial fair play. I feel like Olympiacos were seriously done from the fact that they did not get a return to their investment from those gems that Francois Modestot brought from Africa. I mean, Madi Camara left as a free agent, and Useinuba, Papa Boussissé, and Agibou Camara left for a total of a packet of peanuts. And that kind of did hurt us financial fair play wise, which is why I feel it is imperative that this group of youngsters do not fail at Olympiacos, because, well, literally and figuratively, Olympiacos cannot afford this. They cannot afford for this group of youngsters to fail. They cannot go down like Kostas Mendrinos or Panayotis Vlachodimos or Yannis Fetfadzidis or Aris Soiledis, who were good for a couple of matches and then they ended up doing and becoming nothing. So how important is it that this group of youth players succeed from a financial standpoint and an FFP standpoint?
So, Costa, first of all, regardless of whether the FFP issues are ongoing, having a strong academy core or having a strong group of academy kids always is beneficial. Now, in our case, look, people don't like to talk about the financial issues that the club has. People don't like to talk about it. But, you know, we are paying for, this summer, we're paying for some mistakes, or mistakes that we've made the last couple of years. And I don't want to harp on that because it's something that we've talked about a lot on this show. And for the sake of this show, with the win and with what we saw with the kids, I'd like to focus more, at least, on the positives. But you're right. I mean, this is how you get out of those situations. You get a nice core of kids from the academy that have cost you nothing, right, to develop, and then they pan out and they do well. You sell them off. And then you make some money, and then that can help you bring in these higher profile players. People complain about the level of spending we had this summer. People forget that in the last 3 seasons, Marinakis had to put 55 million euros AMK, or equity investment, share capital increase, whatever they call it in Greece, which is an equity investment to cover losses. Remember what FFP means. A club cannot have more than 60 million in losses over 3 years. If you're healthy, it's 90 million. We were not healthy. We were almost there. So we could only do what we could do without major sales this summer. I am still, as much as everybody else was complaining, I was still happy with the way business was done this summer, under the assumption that the kids were going to be a part of the plan. If we continue to talk about the plan and the kids going forward, and the kids continue to feature in a manner that they featured today, I think the business we did this summer was fine. If the kids are not going to be part of it, that's a whole different conversation, because then there are holes in the team. You see, when the kids are available, we look way more balanced. Mouzakis available, the midfield has a little bit of creativity to it. Look, he wasn't that good when it came to the defensive aspect, but that's fine. He's young. He's not as well versed into the system as some of the others. We'll work on that. He has Jose and Chiquinho next to him. It's going to be fine. It's Kostoulas as well. Kostoulas is going to be more valuable in our pressing scheme than Yaremchuk probably ever will be, or at least until he starts to get more match fit. But right now, Kostoulas is more fit than Yaremchuk is. That's 100% sure. And then you have El Kaabi there. We know El Kaabi and Yaremchuk can't play together. We saw that in the Europa League game. But you know who can play well next to somebody else is Babis Kostoulas. Babis Kostoulas played well he looked better at least next to El Kaabi than Yaremchuk did. So Babis Kostoulas, in my opinion, is a solution to a lot more things than at the moment than Yaremchuk is. And Mouzakis is the same. We don't have a deep lying playmaker. We don't have somebody that can move the ball like Horta did. And when you also don't have a person like Kostas Fortounis, a very creative player that is willing to come back and get the ball and make things work, we don't have anybody really like that either. So to have a player like Mouzakis who can do that, and he can see the balls played, he knows what he's doing. Very rarely misplaced the ball today as well. Very important. Very important. Extremely important. And also, what we saw on the right side, Costa, was also something that was very interesting. We finally saw Costinha really get some minutes. We saw something. We saw Rodinei further elevated. In the beginning, I was not a huge fan because I don't like when we push fullbacks forward. But guess what? That looked pretty good. Costinha looked great today. I mean, we've been saying to people that we've upgraded on that side with Costinha versus Kini. But you really saw today, like Costinha is just a different sauce, and he's better defensively than Rodinei is. And that's not just my opinion. That's just fact. He's way more sound defensively. And Rodinei, when he's further forward, Rodinei gets to do what he wants to do, which is just get forward with the ball, get into the penalty area, get into that central area. Rodinei had a couple of nice shots. Costinha had a lovely shot. Rodinei hit the post. I mean, guys, the only thing that worries me about that is if Rodinei and Costinha are playing like that, our depth kind of gets lost at right back, right? We can't support playing both our right backs all the time. Somebody's going to get hurt, and you need somebody to play right back. We have Biancon who can play right back. We know Retsos has played right back in the past, but I don't want to start using up all of our depth with already a relatively thin roster in comparison to what we've had in the past. When while Gelson is hurt, while Masouras is still hurt, I'd prefer personally to have other options, but I did like what I saw there, and I'm not against seeing something like that again. In the end, Costa, Mouzakis, Kostoulas were just a start for the youth. I want us to see us incorporating more. As far as I'm concerned, Kostoulas for me is a better player than Biancon. I love Biancon. He loves the club. He offers a lot. I'm not taking that away from him. But Isidros Kostoulas is a great center back. He is a great center back. He is also ready for this. I would not mind seeing him play and getting some minutes, especially if in a back three. I would love to see that as well. When it comes to winger depth, instead of us using up our right backs to try and figure something out, we have Yazici, who will probably play on the right if he's not playing behind the striker. He's probably going to play on that right side. But Papacanelos is an option I'd rather us see using for depth at the wing position than us pulling the limited depth we have in the fullback position. We know that the kids are ready. They've showed it. Give them a chance and let them show you what they can do. I'm going to repeat, Costa. These are not random kids. This isn't Fetfatsidis or Manthatis or Soilidis, like you said, or Siopis, randomly just coming out of the academy to play. No. These kids won the youth league. We had the best U19 in the world. Oh, sorry, not the world. We lost to Flamengo. In Europe. We had the best U19 in Europe. They won the youth league. It's a different conversation. These kids are ready. Don't worry about their age. It's about their ability. It's about the profile, and it's about their will and their energy and passion on the field. You saw that they had all of that today, at least the first two. Now we bring them in the rotation. We see what everybody can do, and remember, we have patience with them. They're not going to have amazing games like this every time. They will have struggles, and we have to support them through that. When they have one bad game, we can't just say, oh, they're kids, screw them, put them back down to the U19s, they're done. No, you have to stick with it because there will be growing pains. They're 17 years old. Kostoulas and Mouzakis are. The other ones are 19. You have to have patience. You have to ride it, and then you have to let them grow. That is it.
Well, I mean, there's quite a chatter taking place on the on the chat about Papacanelos specifically. Here's Alex 050 saying best thing for Papacanelos is to go on loan this January to a team from the Super League with Yazici here now. He won't get playing time. Well, the reality is though that we do have two playmakers who can play down the wing in a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1 kind of formation in Willian and Yazici right now. Of course, Yazici cannot play in Europe until January. So we don't really have depth in the number 10, if you really think about it. I am very much for giving Papacanelos opportunities, but with Willian and Yazici now in the team, how do you see that transpiring for Papacanelos, Ari?
I've seen this a lot. Yazici's here. Papacanelos isn't going to play. Papacanelos is right-footed. Yazici's left-footed. Yazici's going to be playing on the right. Papacanelos is an inverted winger. He can also play on the 10. But Papacanelos is going to play on the left. I don't think Yazici is going to have any bearing on whether or not Papacanelos plays, because again, he plays on the opposite side of the field. He's, Yazici is usually a number 10. I mean, if we're expecting both of them to play at the 10, then fine, because I've seen people talk about how Papacanelos can play as a 10. But remember, Mendilibar doesn't use a creative 10 in the way that we think about. The 10 for Mendilibar in this system is for the press. What does Chiquinho do when he's playing further up? It's for the press. It's not for anything else. Look at what Oliveira did today. Oliveira, it was similar. Sorry. Oliveira, he wasn't really. I liked what I saw from him today, but like the role that he plays in this system is not necessarily creativity first. Your role under Mendilibar is to press first, and then the creativity comes later. So I don't think we're going to see Yazici be playing behind the striker as much. I think he's going to go out on the right, the same way that Kostas Fortounis was going out on the left or on the right as well, despite the fact that he's traditionally a number 10. Everybody talks about Yazici as the Turkish Fortounis. By the way, Costa, the scouting report for Yazici is available in case anybody didn't see it yet. It's published on our YouTube, so you can see that the comparison. I do a comparison with Fortounis as well. I talk about his pros and cons as well. But I don't see how he takes minutes away from Papacanelos. The thing that took minutes away from Papacanelos is Willian, because Willian plays on the left. So now you have Willian and Velde there. That's what takes minutes away from Papacanelos, not necessarily Yazici. So anyway, but of the 5 players for me, and I brought this up multiple times, Papacanelos for me had the weakest preseason of the kids. I watched every friendly match. I watched every one. I think Papacanelos could do, whoever's brought up the loan, I wouldn't be against that, getting him some minutes, just like we did with Kostoulas, who's playing at Panetolikos right now, the former captain of the U19s. He's another one that I thought would have been good for the team, but you know what? I'm not gonna look a gift horse with the mouse that we have, or in the mouth, that we have 5 kids that are practicing with the first team and 2 or 3 that are getting put in the squad list. I'm not going to say anything else about that, but I think that in January, if we find a team that's willing to take Papacanelos, I would love to see him get regular minutes somewhere, even if it's outside of Greece, but somewhere. I think it would do him a lot of good. But he does, from what I saw in preseason, Papacanelos has a little bit of growing up to do. He can get away with a lot of that in U19 just because his talent and ability is so far clear of what's there. He looks great. He's doing very well for the U19 every game he plays. But you saw in the friendlies when he's playing against men and senior, we'll say first division teams, especially across Europe, he doesn't get away with being able to do all the excess dribble that he does at the U19. He needs to go somewhere, get regular minutes, and learn something from that first team experience.
Well, you did mention a midfield trio of Mouzakis, Chiquinho, and Eze going forward, which would be very, very interesting. You got a number 10, a number 8, and a number 6 in there. But when it comes to that sort of midfield, I mean, we started the season thinking maybe Doi would be the third alongside Chiquinho and Eze to cover that Vicente Iborra role, which we have been missing quite a bit, I'm going to dare say. Could you see Eze, though, taking that Iborra role in the sense of guarding the back four? Obviously, Carmo and Retsos are very good with the build-up, and Carmo as well has a very good way of connecting midfield with defense. But we are going to need someone in midfield to do this. Mouzakis is not going to do it. Chiquinho is not going to do it. Do you think this is going to create a hole, though, at the back if we apply this midfield trio and drop someone like Andreas Doi or Marcos Stamenic, or I don't know, maybe Sergio Oliveira could also kind of like be a good little connection between Eze at the back and Chiquinho up front. How do you see that transpiring in that regard?
I'm not look. I loved Doi being used as a midfielder. I don't know why we stopped. I think he's more valuable so far this season as a 6 or as a holding midfielder. I see what he does better than Stamenic so far. I've been very disappointed with Stamenic. So I'm not against that. And I'm also not worried about, if Doi gets used in the midfield more, losing depth at the center back, because again, we have Kostoulas. And I rate Kostoulas beyond Biancone at this point. Pirola, assuming that he's not injured, we've got 2 left-footed center backs. We've got Thrylos and Doi that can play both. And then you would have, actually, Kostoulas, I think, is left-footed, isn't he? He's also a left-footed center back. I have to double check that. But anyway,
I'm not sure.
I think we have great depth right now at the center back, and I don't think that anything should preclude us from using Doi at the 6 if he's going to be more valuable and better at it than one of these other players. That's how I see it. This whole thing is in sports in general, and I've always said this, whether I was watching American football or hockey, it doesn't matter. It's football, whatever the case is. For me, you always ride the hot hand is what we say here in the United States. You always play with the players who are playing well and in the positions that they're doing the best in. You do what works. You go with what is succeeding. And if Ndoi's playing really well in the midfield, in that holding role, in that defensive midfield role, and he's doing it better than the other guys you brought in, you roll with him. You figure the other stuff out. You play with what works. Don't force things that are not working. I don't care. For me personally, I don't care how much you played for somebody. You bring in James Rodriguez, I don't care. If somebody else is doing something better than him, forget it. Willian, if he can't figure something out on the left side, he's not doing it. And Papa Canelos is better. You're right, Papa Canelos. Willian can be an expensive player on the bench. Doesn't matter to me. You have to go with what works. Ndoi looks better than Stamenic. He looks better than Danny Garcia. So as far as I'm concerned, he's ahead of them in the depth chart for me when it comes to that defensive midfielder. So for me, if I have an issue and I need to sub somebody out, I'm subbing Ndoi in before I'm subbing Stamenic in, or before
Absolutely.
I'm subbing Garcia in. That's how I look at it. Somebody said Kostoulas is right-footed. So there you go. If Kostoulas is right-footed, I don't care about we have 3 guys that can play right center back. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it at all. I get more scared when Doi plays center back personally. I'd rather him just be a permanent midfield option. He scares the crap out of me, center back. He is way too aggressive and reckless for a center back, but he is the perfect amount aggressive, perfect amount of recklessness for a midfielder. I'm going to say that.
I'd like to go through 2 comments. One from Nikos R. Nico, thank you so much for your comment. Costa Eze had the Ibora role for most of last year, which he did. Our most used midfield was without Ibora. It was classically Eze, Horta, and Chiquinho. Well, we didn't find stability in midfield until Ibora came in with Eze and Chiquinho. Horta mostly came from the bench. And I remember this one match against Panetolikos. I was at Leoforos. It was Mendilibar was trying to rotate a bit ahead of the final, so he opted for Chiquinho, Eze, and João Carvalho in midfield, and we were shambolic. Exactly. And then came Ibora for Carvalho, and that's where we found the stability, and we tied the game with this incredible performance by Daniel Podence and Stefan Jovetic's equalizer. And I have to say this, Ari, I really feel more comfortable with the number 6 at Olympiacos, a classic number 6. I feel a lot more comfortable with Doi being in that trio of midfielders. Mouzakis is probably coming on from the bench, maybe, unless Eze can actually play as a classic number 6 and guard the back 4. I haven't really been convinced by Stamenic. Garcia is not even a number 6 to be honest. But I do like what I'm reading about Yazici as well. Right here, we are getting a lot of messages about Yazici. One of them from Dimus Loner. For those might not know, Yazici, when he played with his national team, he said he enjoys playing with Yildiz from Juve and Arda Güler from Real Madrid because those kids push him to compete to 100%. Well, I mean, if that's the case, then he could love Olympiacos.
Yeah, why wouldn't he? Look, Yazici, I think, is going to be useful for us, even if it's just in Greece. I've had a lot of people ask me about him and Adam Unas, and I told everybody when we were first initially linked with Adam Unas, I said I would have preferred Yazici because Yazici between the two of them, more useful for what we need now, with respect to what the issues that we're having. Adam Unas, besides the fact that the guy can't stay healthy, would be another Gelson Martins. It doesn't fit with what we actually need, right? We were lacking up until now, until today at least, was the ability to break once we got into the final third. We didn't have issues getting to the final third. It was getting into the penalty box. It was getting good chances on target. And Yazici does much better penetrating the final third, getting into the penalty area, and creating chances from there, versus Unas's getting you there. That's how I saw those profiles. And again, you can go see the scouting report on Yazici really to see what I think we'll get out of him. But I think he'll be a useful player for us, especially once he's match fit. He definitely has qualities that I like. He definitely has qualities that I think we need. So I do believe that he'll have use for us in that respect. And I'm glad that he said that about the youth too, because good, maybe it pushes him to be better. But once again, the whole point of this is that we have the youth and the depth for this. And it needs to be relied on because they are usable assets. They're not just, they're kids, we shouldn't be using them. No. These are all usable assets that we have at our disposal. And when we look at that and we actually take into consideration that all the talent that we have and the assets at our disposal, and not just viewing some as kids that we'll throw out when we don't need them, we have a really balanced squad. We do. We have a great squad, and a squad that's more than capable of winning the league. I watched the Balkadis game today. I watched Panetolikos AEK. And I know how much money those spent because we talk about it in Patreon all the time. I'm sorry.
The kind of players they bought with them, with that money.
Right.
The kind of players they got.
Right. Costa, you know what you get for spending the most money? You get the Golden Butso as your award. Panetolikos is not winning a title with that squad, Costa. Did you watch what they did with AEK today? They looked horrible. No. If Mouzakis had spent that kind of money, because this is all I've heard people talk about. Oh, Panetolikos had the highest net spend. They spent the most money. Ask me how much net spend matters in Greece. It does not. If net spend mattered in the last 15 years, Panetolikos would have the most titles. They have the highest net spend.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. Olympiacos spent more money than any other team the last 2 years. We didn't win a title. It does not matter how much you spend. What matters is how you spent it. Panetolikos bought two really great players in Tete and Pelistri, we'll say, two expensive flops that have talent maybe that was just unrealized. And their game plan is just, I don't even know what the hell the game plan is. I watch Panetolikos, and it's, if Ioannidis doesn't do something magical, they rely on either Tete or Pelistri to do something. There's no game plan. If you watch them again today, I have no idea what Panetolikos is trying to do except wait or pray for Ioannidis or Tete or Pelistri to do something magical. That's it. That's not a game plan. AEK also doesn't look great. AEK's defense is horrible. They did not improve on their defense. They did not. They have too many players. But AEK look better than Panetolikos. PAOK is our main competition for the title. They look better than every other team outside of Olympiacos. And I am not impressed with PAOK either. I watched them play against Aris. PAOK is another one. They're very physical and they're very compact. And that's where their success is. But again, they're not going to, PAOK is not going to succeed in Europe for the exact same reason, because they don't have sound tactics in that regard. They don't have a sound game plan. It's just compact, be physical, and pray to God we can get a counter. And they have good pieces for that, but it's not, the teams that we're talking about here are not amazing. We by far, when you put the talent, somebody put that talent on paper that we have on our roster in an Excel sheet. And when you actually look at the names and you compare the names to everybody else, we have the best roster in Greece. Guys, right now, through 6 match weeks, Olympiacos has by far the best defense in Greece, the least XG allowed, the least goals allowed. And that's something. You know, here we are, we're going to complain about
it's more than just something.
We didn't spend enough money. We didn't do this. Like, okay, the team hasn't looked great. I concede that to you because it hasn't. It hasn't looked as amazing as what we expected from the Conference League. But there are a lot of things that are going right. And now that we finally seem to be accepting the fact that the youth have something to offer, we have the most balanced team in Greece. And hopefully for the rest of the Europa League, we will have the league phase. We have something better to show than we did in Lyon. So that's really the lesson here, is that for as much money as Panetolikos has spent, they still look like shit. For as much money as AEK has spent, they also made a big sale with Ponce. They still look like shit. Bauk. They don't have net spend. They actually sold more people than they brought money in. They made this big expenditure or they brought in what's his name, Chalov. Flop. He looks horrible. So when we sit here and we start complaining about transfers, remember, you know what I mean? The business we did this summer, for me, I would, even though we lost Horta, even though we lost Fortunis, even though we lost Pudens, I still take the business that was done this summer 10 times over the last 2 seasons. I would rather bring in 10 players, get rid of 30, than bring in 30, getting rid of 40. You know what I mean? The small improvements. We have a long way to go for this club. This club's not perfect. Far from it, actually. This club has a lot of issues, a lot of mistakes that get made. But I will take the improvements as they come. We have the best squad in Greece, period.
And I do believe we really dodged a massive bullet with Adam Ounas solely because of the fact that the guy actually flew to Greece, passed his medical, and then all of a sudden a team from Qatar, I don't remember how they were called.
Al-Sadd, Al-Sadd, right?
I think it was Al-Sadd. Yeah, they came in and they offered him a better contract, and immediately off he goes to Qatar. The guy didn't want to. He didn't want to play for us.
You say thank you. Thank you. I didn't want him anyway. Thank you, Al-Sadd. We got the player that was a better fit for us anyway. Thank you.
Yeah, everyone was saying this. We had Liam from Get French Football not too long ago who was saying that Yazici is better than Ounas. And I mean, somebody mentioned this in the comment section that, oh my God, imagine William playing ahead of Papacanelos. Well, imagine if we had Ounas, who would be playing ahead of Papacanelos as well. When it comes to the signings, I have to say I did speak to a person that was very close to Olympiacos. And I asked them, like, is there something wrong with the team? Is there something wrong with the manager? Because I cannot believe that such a good team with such quality and such a good manager looks so bad on the pitch. I just cannot believe it. And he told me there's nothing wrong with the manager and the players. The only problem is there are quite a few signings who are not ready yet. Willian and Sergio Oliveira arrived late. They're not match fit yet. Yusuf Yazici is going to need time. He's not going to come in scoring hat tricks. Dani Garcia and Marcos Stamenic got injured during preseason. Panos Retso suffered another injury. David Carmo arrived late. They're just not ready yet. And I remember I spoke to Kostas Levoyanis with a C, and he told me, mate, we're not going to see this team rolling before October or November. And he's absolutely right. You know, and I think you said that as well, Ari, in private conversation. I need to stop disclosing what we say privately. But this is the case, guys. These aren't flops. This is just a team of players that unfortunately arrived late. Some of them got injured during preseason. We spoke about Papacanelos. He didn't have a good preseason, so you can't just throw him in to start every other game. So it does take patience. The tools are there. And I mean, think about this, Ari. Think about the headache you have ahead of Braga right now if you're Mendilibar. Because you're thinking, I need to save players for Braga. So I'm going to play Kostini at right back with Rodinei up front because Gelson Martinez is injured. Kostinha plays an amazing match at right back. So what do I do with Braga now? Do I start Rodinei? Do I start Kostinha? Mouzakis has a belter of a match. Do I start? Who do I start at number 8 now?
Right.
Why shouldn't I start Mouzakis up front? Babis Kostoulas looked really good. And he looked really good next to Ayoub El Kaabi. Who do I start up front now with against Braga? So the tools are there. You just need to find a way to build something with that, to make that all gel.
It's up to Mendilibar. It's up to coach to figure that out. From Nick 23, he had a comment. He said, "I haven't heard your opinions on Oliveira." I wasn't upset with Oliveira today. I saw a lot of people complaining about him, but I wasn't that upset.
He's not ready
today.
He's not ready.
He's not ready, but I mean, this guy, he had a handful of crosses. He connected every single one. Unlike Rodinei, who's like 4 for 45. at this point. I didn't have many issues with that. I saw him scrummaging for the ball a lot, and winning the ball a lot in those like close quarters situations. He also had a couple of nice balls that into the penalty area that led directly to shots. So I thought Oliveira was okay today, and we're going to see better from him. He had one shot that was blocked by a defender that, I mean, was a bit of a rocket. I mean, he does have a cannon of a shot, but I didn't think there was an issue with Oliveira today, to be honest with you. I thought he was fine. I mean, like, I saw people knocking on Stamenic, and while I wasn't amazed by him, I didn't think he was awful. Do I want him to be way more aggressive? Yeah, 100%. Does he not anticipate the ball well? No, he doesn't. But I didn't think he was awful today. I thought he was functional. There's better at the position than him, in my opinion. But yeah, as far as Oliveira goes, I thought Oliveira was fine.
He is a very
today.
good player, and when he's ready, just like Willian, I cannot believe people are writing Willian off after 2 full seasons in the Premier League where he started pretty much every game, every season. He
Yeah,
missed only a few games. It is unbelievable. Once they're ready, because they arrived late, and they're already, Willian especially, the progress he's making despite the lack of preseason. I mean, you saw him as well against Lyon. He did look good when he came in, and he scored that
right.
crazy goal, but still his movement, his passing, his crosses, his shots, Willian brings something extra, and that's how I see him. I see him as an impact player, just like Valbuena was in his 2 latter seasons. But I do want your comment on one thing about Costinha here, Ari. Obviously, Rodinei played up front in the right wing because Zelson is injured, and he's going to miss the game against Braga, and we're hoping he's going to be available for Panetolikos a few days later. So what do you do now if you're Mendilibar? What do you do with this wonderful headache? Who starts at right back against Braga, or do you just do the same thing? Costinha at right back and Rodinei up front in the right wing.
You might have to do the same thing, Costa, because Masouras isn't healthy yet. Gelson Martins isn't going to be back yet. You might have to do the same thing if you're worried about your winger depth, because right now all you're going to have at the winger position is, unless they roster Papacanelos, which it doesn't look like it's likely, you're only going to have Velde, Willian, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you have. Willian and Velde, unless you play in a 3-5-2. So you're going to have to play Rodinei up there, and Costinha is going to have to play right back. But I'll say this, because Costinha is way better to me defensively than Rodinei is. Like, we've seen Rodinei get beaten, not just because he's too far forward, but we've just seen him getting beaten on that side defensively. Costinha is way more sound defensively. I mean, I saw a statistic today about Costinha when it came to like the number of duels that he had on that right side, and it was pretty absurd. I mean, he had like 13. It was like 13 ground duels, like on that right side, where he was like closing players down, and he won like, I think it was 10 of them. I know it was double digits, but I mean, Costinha, like, you couldn't get by him. You couldn't get by him today. Anybody that went on that side, whether it was Warda, it didn't matter. They were in his pocket. You couldn't get away from him. And he looked pretty good going forward. He hit the post also, Costinha. So, you know, I wouldn't be upset seeing those two again, assuming that, you know, it's enough time and enough rest for them ahead of Thursday to be able to do that. Because on that side, Braga has, who plays on that left side? Is
Bruma.
So they're going to have their hands full with it. But Costinha looks like he's ready for it, man. That kid looked like he could run. The game was over, and Costinha looked like he could have run another 90 minutes. So I like that. Now, I don't know if we're going to see the 3-5-2 again. But, you know, if we see the 4-2-3-1, I would be okay with Rodinei playing in the wing position and Costinha playing fullback. And then, you know, we sub out on that right side. We sub somebody out. Maybe Kostoulas gets subbed in and occupies that right side or something, because we're only going to have 2 wingers besides that. So, but I wouldn't be against it. I liked what I saw today, and Rodinei looked very good playing further forward. It's what he wants to do anyway. So I'm not against it. I'm not against it at all.
Well, I mean, Braga are next, and this is going to be a huge match. Now, I mean, we got a bit of a confidence booster with Atromitos. I was hoping for a bigger score, something to really make it look like the last three games were nothing but a bunch of flukes. But Braga are a difficult team. Three old friends are coming back to Karaiskaki. Those are none others than Bruma, who scored just now against Rio Ave. It's 4-0 for Braga as we speak. Andre Horta, the man that everyone wanted in midfield, including myself and you, Ari, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, you were there as well. And everyone's least favorite manager in years, Carlos Carvalhal. So, I mean, if there wasn't any pressure enough right now to win at Karaiskaki, think about the fact that your opponent is Carlos Carvalhal and you cannot lose to that guy. Right. He's such a nice guy, though, Carlos Carvalhal. And he did have success there and now with Celta, if I remember correctly. He did have a bit of success there. And Swansea as well. He looked good. Sheffield Wednesday, was it? Yes, he looked good. So this is a game that we have to win for many, many reasons. First of all, because we need points in the league phase, because we are at least targeting the top 24. We need it for morale reasons. This is the first Karaiskaki match after the first European match at Karaiskaki after winning the conference. How would you start who would you start in this match, and what kind of formation would you have, Ari?
So, first of all, this Braga team for me is better than Lyon. Lyon had some decent players, but that was a catastrophe of a team. And the fact that we couldn't even get a point against them is a little bit disappointing, even if we weren't expecting much. But this match is going to be harder. And I'm going to be honest with you, Costa, even if we argue that the 3-5-2 was successful in limiting Lyon and they, not getting them to materialize too many chances, I didn't like it. It wasn't our identity. I'd rather us lose with the identity that we've had in Europe since Mendilibar arrived. And that is smash mouth, high press, punch them in the mouth right off the bat. That I would much rather lose when we have balls than lose the way we lost to Lyon. Does that make sense? For me, I didn't like what I saw. I mean, the midfield just looked completely disorganized, and maybe that's a function of who was there. So I'm not going to discount that entirely, but I have a couple of concerns about the match in particular. First and foremost, who is going to go, what's going to happen on the left side? Ortega was getting, well, forget about it. I don't even know what's going to happen to Ortega with Braga's wingers in their right side, because he's going to get torched. He has not looked good this season, especially on the defensive side of things. So, I mean, the only way I can see us getting something out of this is we have to do what we have done every other match besides the Lyon game. We have to be the ones that are going out and surprising people. Now Carvalhal, we know he's a more defensive manager. At least when in European situations, when he was the same way before for his teams when he had Braga, he's going to be the same thing now. So we have to approach it the same way. We have to be the one that gets on the front foot and tries to surprise them, because if we do this huddle in our own third, low block, mid block again for 90 minutes, we will eventually lose. We will. And we picked up a couple of injuries. Well, we'll see how it goes before the match, but we can't afford to be picking up injuries for our center backs, which is right now, look how important they were into our build up today. I liked what Lakis Gavalas had said about our center backs before. He said that everything good started from them and everything bad ended with them. And we can't afford to have them get injured, and we can't afford to be forcing everything into them like we did before. I'd rather us go back with the identity that had us win success in the Conference League and go that way and at least lose with a bang, because Braga's not a joke. I also want to see what has worked so far. Yaramchuk come off the bench. I'd like to see Kostoulas or El Kaabi, because they're the ones that are pressing and have a lot of energy. I'd like to see Mouzakis with Chiquinho and Heze. I don't care at this point if Chiquinho is further forward. I don't care if Mouzakis is further forward. I want the players that have shown me something. You know what? I probably wouldn't even be against Apostolopoulos starting over Ortega, because Ortega has just been so disappointing to me. But at this point, for the European match, I probably would stick with Chiquinho in the beginning, and then maybe put in Willian later or Sergio Oliveira later. But I would start probably with El Kaabi and bring Kostoulas on as a sub. The one that I would start after what he did today, I would start Mouzakis, regardless of what happens. Even if he has a bad game, I don't care. I'm running with that because he's the most creative thing that we have. And if we roll with the same midfield that we've been doing the last few games, we're going to get punished because we only have one player right now who's been adequate in the press and anticipating and laying the press trap, and that's Heze. And quite frankly, he wasn't that great at Lyon either. Chiquinho has not been really the same, but he's still better for that pressing scheme, getting everybody forward in concert with El Kaabi. The problem then is going to be who's next to him. So I would still stick with, if I'm picking the starting lineup, if we're starting from the back, it's Carmo Retsos, assuming they're both healthy, which I think they are. It'll be Coutinho on the right. I would be using Apostolopoulos on the left because Francisco Ortega has just been a complete disappointment to me. In the midfield, I'm going with, like I said before, I'm going with Heze and Mouzakis. I'm using still Chiquinho in the front because, again, I'm thinking about the press. The press is what's going to be, if we do anything, because our buildup hasn't exactly been amazing so far this year. Everything we have to do is going to work off the press. Chiquinho works well with El Kaabi off the press. We need that. On the left side, by virtue of lack of many options, I'm using Velde. One, because the European context is the context for his success. The low block we knew he was going to struggle in, and he's continued to struggle in Greece. But in Europe, with some space, we should see something. And then on the right, I do Rodinei again, assuming that he's fit and able. That's how I'm looking. And El Kaabi up front. That's my lineup. And I'm doing what worked for me last season and won us a Conference League title. That's how I'm approaching the game. And if we lose, we're at home. We're at the Karaiskaki. I want us to play with the identity we've established, and that gave us now a name. That's what I want. Win or lose, I'd rather win or lose by that sword than by the sword of hiding in my final third. That's what I prefer.
Well said, and I do agree with you with the lineup. I think that the lineup did pretty much give us an indication of what we can expect against Braga, and it also gave us an indication of who could really help at Braga. So having said that, who would you say is your man of the match, and how would you grade Jose Luis Mendilibar in this match that could have major effects, could have a major effect for the rest of the season based on what we could see against Braga?
Well, on social media before we came on here, I had said that I couldn't wait to see what everybody would say for man of the match. I know there's a couple of different shouts that you can make, but I think everyone, especially the ones that have been following this show for a longer period of time, know what I like. And I think everybody knows who my man of the match is. My man of the match is Mouzakis.
Same here.
I mean, it's pretty easy to me. Look, okay, you know what? Velde drew the penalty. Fine. Rodinei scored the penalty. Fine. El Kaabi scored the goal that put us through the end. But what Mouzakis did today, we talk about man of the match, the people that best put you in the position to win the game. And some of our best times, our best transitions going forward were off the back of what Mouzakis was doing. Like I said, there was a ball to Velde where he cut the midfielder and the defensive line for Velde, and Velde just ruined the opportunity. But then as a result of that and the ball being won back again by our team, Velde draws the penalty. That whole sequence started because of that ball from Mouzakis. And then the ball to El Kaabi over the defender, that was Mouzakis. Those two defining moments were at the beginning of something that was done by Christos Mouzakis. So just in that alone, like, and what the way he was able to move the ball around, that was my man of the match performance. And you know what? Maybe if it wasn't Mouzakis, maybe if it wasn't him and the focus wasn't on him, I would say it was somebody else. I would look at maybe Costinha and say, oh, Costinha actually did a lot more. But again, Mouzakis did more in one match, Kostas, than any of those central midfielders have done, central or attacking midfielders have done for us all season. That is something. That is value. That is worth something. And that in and of itself is enough to make him man of the match. Just right there. all of that context combined. But otherwise, you would look at somebody like Costinha. Maybe you would say Rodinei, or maybe you would say El Kaabi. But for me, it's 100% Mouzakis. And I give that shout maybe to Costinha as well. I also give a shout to our center backs, because our center backs, quite frankly, the reason Atromitos did nothing was because they cleaned it all up. So you can give shouts to them too. But for me, it's Mouzakis. And then coach's grade, I'm glad that we're back with the Mendiliballs, the watermelon Mendiliballs. I'm glad it's back. He gets an A because they're back. The Gajones are back, and I hope they stay. I want to see that against Braga, win or lose.
I couldn't agree more with you about Mouzakis. He's also my man of the match. Freshness in midfield. Very good link up between the lines. Amazing assist, that volley. I mean, the grace, the style. 17 years old and playing like a 25-year-old or 26-year-old with experience. Could have had another assist there for Christopher Velde. It's not easy for a 17-year-old to be called upon to enter the pitch on his senior debut and also deliver. And he did that and then some at Karaiskaki, one of the toughest stadiums in the world. It is tough for the opponents, but it's also tough for the newbie, who is dealing with some very, very, very demanding fans. And he carried out his task triumphantly. Absolutely my man of the match. Jose Luis Mendilibar, I couldn't agree with you more about, the courage that he showed, the risk that he took. The risk, it brought memories of the conference last season when he took massive risks and they all paid off compared to like Carlos Carvalhal, who would refuse to take any sort of risk. I will give him an A as well. It's not an A plus because I did see a few issues in the way that we moved the ball forward, the way that at some points there was a lack of creativity, but that still has to do with players that are not fully match fit yet for various different reasons. Some of them have arrived late, and others got injured during preseason. So I'm not too worried about that, but I'm going to be fair and give him an A. A question here from Yannis Spinos. Do you think the Pau game coming on Sunday is going to affect the starting 11 on Thursday? And Ari, I'm going to repeat something that I feel like most of the lineup that we saw today was because of Braga, that Mendilibar was rotating. So I do fear that we're probably going to see players that we don't want to see back in the lineup against Braga, because Mendilibar probably already has an idea of who he wants to start then. I really, really hope this match creates that pleasant headache I told you about, with Costinha at right back, with Mouzakis in midfield, with Rodinei up front on the right wing. I do hope we don't see Dani Garcia back. I hope we don't see Marko Stamenic in midfield. I hope we don't see Yaremchuk up front with El Kaabi. But I do have to warn our lovely fans that I do worry that the lineup we just saw today was a rotation ahead of Braga, and we might see a different lineup with Braga. I don't think Mendilibar always has a bigger, let's say, respect for Europe than he does have for the league. I doubt he's going to say he's going to rest players for Panathinaikos, because Europe, he has proven in the past with Sevilla, has proven it with us. He does have a bigger regard for Europe, so I do not expect him to rest players ahead of Panathinaikos.
Kosta, that was a really good question. Also, guys, Vagiros Marinakis has decided to tune in to tell us that Velde is a very good player. So whoever that is, maybe that's who was the one that would always chime in as like different players' names. Maybe if that's the same person, good on you. But look, that's a really tough question because, look, if we're doing it by what we've heard from the club, right? What we've heard from Marinakis and what he's talked to the players about, the priority this season is the title. So if the priority this season is the title, you would have to that he is going to use another rotated side on Thursday, and then the starting lineup plays against Panathinaikos. But again, knowing Mendilibar and knowing that we also value what's going on in Europa League, and we have to come back from a loss against Lyon, I would expect to see a pretty good lineup against Braga. And then maybe we rotate some things against Panetolikos in the beginning of Sunday just to hold out until some substitutes can come on. It's a difficult situation. But I think personally that I would try to use I would just use as many of the players that we did today against Braga. With the exception of I would be using El Kaabi. I would be using El Kaabi. I would be starting him instead. I would start Velde again. And I would start, like I said, Mouzakis with Heze and Chiquinho. I would be starting them against Braga, and then I would adjust a little bit against Panathinaikos because it doesn't matter what we do against Panathinaikos. That derby, the derbies in general, they're always kind of ugly. They're ugly. They're, you can go with a less attractive, more aggressive lineup against them. And because it's never pretty. It's almost, unless you look at some of the times we played against Ike, like they're never blowouts. They're never pretty. So if it were me personally, I'd like to line up better against Braga. But based on what the signaling is from the club, I just expect that maybe we see a really strong lineup against Panathinaikos because we know that the title is the priority, not necessarily Europa League, even though we all want to succeed there. That's kind of where I see a few things, Costa.
And it has been a long time since we won a derby early on in the season, nice and early.
Yes.
So you're making a very good point there. I do want to say that I still believe in Roman Yaremchuk. I still believe he's an amazing player. He does not fit with Ayoub El Kaabi in the starting lineup together. But coming off the bench, he would bring dynamism. He would bring tempo. He would bring a certain spark into the game with his dribbling, with his runs, with the way that he read the game, his passing. The way he understood his teammates' movements to find them inside the area. I saw it against Nottingham Forest. Proedre, Vangeli Marinaki, we've been talking about Kostinia for an hour. You're going to have to rewatch the game, I'm afraid, my good man. Unless Aris wants to say something extra, because I'm going to ask him right now for his final thoughts before we close the show.
I love Kostinia. I've been super excited about him ever since we heard about signing him before. And Mendilibar is a very good coach. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. We love the guy. The only decision I think a lot of us took issue with early on was not the lack of use of the youth, but using them this time now that he's using them, if he continues to use them, everybody's happy. Everybody trusts him. You don't win a conference league. If anybody is asking for Mendilibar's head after he won the conference league this early on, there's something wrong with you. But anyway, Costa, for my final thoughts, guys. Also, the fan vote was also for Mouzakis. It was almost 70%. Those of you that took the time, thank you for voting in the poll for the man of the match poll. But Mouzakis is at 68%. Rodinei follows him with 26% of the vote. But final thoughts, guys. Beyond that, let's continue to support. Lambro was saying it before. It's hysterical that like Lambro is now like a beacon of positivity amongst like fans that are super negative. Like one of the guys who's probably the most negative, leading up to this, and then has actually seen like what's going on. Like if Lambro can be positive about the moves that are being made from the club guys, you should be positive about it too. There's
Martial as well on Patreon.
Yeah,
he's holding the fort by himself.
It's so funny because like for the first time on this show, like everybody, like we're in alignment with a lot of what we believe in. Like there's not as much disagreement as there was in previous seasons. And I don't think that's a coincidence because, all right, there's growing pains. There's still stuff, we lost pieces. We're trying to build things again, but compared to previous seasons, there's a lot more going in the right direction than there was before. And I know some people will disagree with me with various things. Some people will never let go of the fact that we lost Podence and Fortunis, and that's a different situation altogether. But support the team. Huge game coming up on Thursday. Then, of course, the derby following that. It's a really, really, really big week for Olympiacos coming up. So support the team. Again, if you haven't done so already, don't forget to like and subscribe. Help us continue to grow the community. And also don't forget to vote, guys. The link is in the description. Vote for us. Once again, we were nominated. We're finalists for Best International Podcast in the Football Content Awards. I'll reiterate for those of you that didn't hear before. I will be there in London that weekend. Nottingham Forest is playing Arsenal at the Emirates Stadium. I will be there at that game too. It's the first time I'm going to be in England. It's the first time, well, not the first time in England, but first time like I'll be out and about. I've been to the airport before, but it's going to be the first time that I will be able to see a game. I'm going to be able to see Arsenal and of course Nottingham Forest at the same time. It's going to be great. Kostas Lianos will be there. Kostas Lavoulianis will be there. I'll be there as well. It's going to be a great time. Win or lose, it's an honor to be on that floor with some of the biggest shows. And there's going to be so many people that are there that we've already been connecting with. So please vote for us and help us remind people that Olympiacos matters. Greek football matters. And this is a global club that deserves to be recognized. So help us. If you don't want to help us for that reason, help us so that we can get that out to everybody. The fact that Olympiacos is something that is worth the world knowing about. So vote for us there and let's see what happens.
That's absolutely. You're going to love the Emirates. I've been there. It's an amazing stadium. Andrea Santo, I'm going to drop our email. So send us an email and let me know. Yeah. Hopefully I'm going to be at Karaiskaki as well. I'm waiting for my press pass. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I was Kostas Lianos or Kostas with a K. You choose what it is that you prefer. I was joined by Aris Bouloubassis. And guys, we are going to see you soon. Take care.